right, let's see what's next. This video highlight is brought to you by our Wall of Famers who make it possible for me to carve time out of my very busy real life schedule and do what it is that I love to do. Be with you. Thank you. All right, let's see what Space Tomato has to say here. Star Citizen 2025 has a growing problem that SIG will fix. But when? When? Oh, snap, Retro. Thank you. Thank you very much, Retro.
Space nerds. Since the beginning of 2025, Star Citizen's been developing at breakneck speeds compared to before, or so it seems. We've recently talked about how feature development into Star Citizen has kind of slowed down and stalled a little bit recently, but the ships and content continues to flow at a breakneck pace every month. But the cracks are beginning to show. See, CIG's whole strategy this year is to add enough content and ships so regularly that people continuously want to pay attention. They need people in Star Citizen spending money right now to fund their way to Squadron 42's release. At least that's my opinion. The best way to do that is just adding new things to do. Like Chris said in the beginning, and like a lot of other people would agree, if the game just played better, a lot of people would play it. But the frustration with things like the inventory, player safety, and even the seemingly rushed design of some of these additions is starting to catch back up with that increased rate of activity coming from the company. And while I think they're doing a pretty good job this year, think things are still looking good, these are just the little things that are starting to creep in that I'm noticing the community talking about that I wanted to cover. So today we're going to look at the features that are starting to hold back the progress that Star Citizen is making through the little things you notice here and there, and how we might be able to see some remedies sometime soon, maybe. First up,
I mean, you know what's crazy is there's a lot of things being added or that have been added that I didn't even realize were in the game. For instance, you can take your multi-tool and you can get a cambio filled with RMC and you can repair components inside your ship. We watched that last week. I didn't even realize you could do that. I had a situation where my Vulture was lost all its power, and then I was floating out in space. I boarded what did I board? I think it was a Carrack. Was it a Carrack? No. Anyway, I boarded another ship. I got my loot. I took it over to the ship, and then I went over to Hex. And had I known, you could just like print out some cambio containers and put some RMC up in there, and then I could have repaired my power block. Then I could have fucking, reduced all the craziness that happened after that. So there's a lot of things in the game that you can actually do that's very cool that I don't think get like announced as much. Inventory is an absolute mess. Inventory is a nightmare. I will agree with Tomato on this one.
Is the inventory. Take a look anywhere.
Yeah, I do that too, Fingers. Cambio and Fuses, me too.
No, really. Take a look anywhere at Star Citizen subreddit, and you're going to see discussion about Wicklow, scripts, turning them in, stacking them. You know who you are. I know you're watching. We were pretty excited for this. I personally made a video about how scripts are going to help the solo players in the game. And they do, but they also kind of hurt them. It's not really the scripts that are the problem. This is just exposing a problem that Star Citizen has, the inventory. It's a problem. Okay, we've talked a lot about the different iterations of it, but going all the way back to the first version of this new version, which is the 3.15 version, which came after the old version of the new version, which was in like 3.12, which came after the 3.0 version, which was just a magical bag of holding. It's been a journey. And I don't think that what we have right now is anywhere near what it's supposed to be. I mean, there are plenty of examples of working inventories in the gaming world, especially in games like this. We could look at something like Tarkov to see what most people I think would want to see from a natural looting scenario in Star Citizen. But to be honest, the inventory is not a priority. Remember the video that we just covered like last week? Consider Squadron 42 probably doesn't actually use the inventory system all that much, if at all, and mostly relies on that looting screen that they brought in that does feel a little more polished and like it has some direction. I know people don't like that screen. It works for me, but fact of the matter is that's a Squadron 42 interface, and that's why it got updated. Now, the inventory we were supposed to get actually was kind of a bootleg of the freight elevator interface, and that's why they took it out of the game, because it just was that didn't work well. Here are some of the things we know about inventory management right now and where it's headed. First are lockers, a really big addition people have been waiting a long time for. These are going to allow you to save loadouts so that you can quickly bing, bang, boom, grab a thing and throw it on and pow, get out the door. Basically, lockers are going to allow us to store and equip things very quickly.
That's cool.
At least compared to what we do now. And while we've seen them drop teasers of lockers alongside their base building coverage last year, we still don't really know what's going on with them. The second thing with inventory
you'll be able, the way that they're going to set them up and design them is you'll be able to set your armor set and your weapons rack will be right next to it. So you should just be able to like, boom, hit one button, everything just pop on and then grab your weapon. Like that's initially how I imagine these designers are pushing this together.
Management is that modular bags were actually planned in the past, and they were going to help people store a little bit more stuff on them as they moved around, especially with clothes. I think this is something that might happen when clothes start to become more important, which is kind of happening in 4.2 and probably continue from there. So maybe this comes back. We haven't had it confirmed in a while, so I don't know if it's even still included. The third thing we know about inventory management is that it is being worked on for Star Citizen. In the February monthly report, the team was working on the concepts for the new...
I have concepts of a plan.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a really interesting question because Hugh says, do you want there to be some sort of animation with that or should it just pop onto your character? And that's a really great question because Hugh knows this. I'm super into the realism. And, like, for me, I would like there to be some time where it takes to put on the outfit. That's not how they're going to implement it. I would hope down the road that they do. This is like This is going to be something that I can tell you. I've always loved the realism. I've always loved consequences. I don't like the tier 0 thing, but I understand why they did it so that people could get, you know, with the bugs that people are having or the issues that people are having, they want to get up. They want to, you know, they want to be in their tier 0 outfit with the whole thing on the med bed and go and run out and do the next thing. I get where that's coming from, but it doesn't give people like consequences for the decisions that they make as a citizen in the verse, right? I think along the way, you'll start to see that whole tier 0 concept die out, but that's not going to be for a long time. I think they've done it right now because they're in this alpha stage and they've been this way for a while and they want people to keep playing the game. So therefore, I think when they do this, it's going to be like a right away thing. But what I want, Hugh, is I want there to be in a certain amount of time of vulnerability for you to just get in your gear, whether it be a storage locker or in an area in your ship where your armaments are at, where it takes a little time to take these on. There has to be that for the realism of it. I know where you're going on this, Hugh. I think you probably want that too. Yeah, you said, I want the immersion too, personally. Good. Yes, I think more people need to fight for that because that's going to be the fight. As we keep going, this is really what the fight's going to be. It's going to be the people like us, Hugh, that want the realism versus the people that just want the bing, bang, boom, hurry up, let's go. Like they're playing a BR. And it's like, dude, you're not playing a BR right now. You're in an MMO that's supposed to be immersive, right? So there's always going to have to be this balance. And I think the farther out you go, we're going to get the realism that we want. I just think right now, and you can see this with the flight model too. You can see this with master modes right now. And you can see with like this easy mode kind of line of thinking and tier 0 implementation where they're doing this stuff to get as much players as they can in here and as much revenue as they can. I just hope that it doesn't stick. I hope in the future we get back towards the realism, towards Death of a Spaceman, these things that give us more realism in the game that make us question, do I really want to do this? Because it's going to take me XYZ to get ready to do these things if I continue these types of actions in the game. And you know, the crazy thing with tier 0 is it actually made the verse more dangerous. You know, like the interesting thing is the PvEers were bitching about this. And I understand it, and yes, it is convenient. I find it convenient, so it's kind of hard to argue the antithesis or the other point to this, but I kind of understand game design and where it goes from here. If we keep the tier 0, it's going to be like easy mode. But it made it more dangerous because if pirates pop, guess what? Here we go. I'm back in. I'm going to kill you again, right? Like the thing is tier 0 might be good because the PvEers who are good guys who don't like to be bothered can just hop up and go. But that also works the other way around for pirates that pop. It's like, boom, okay, cool, I'm ready to go. I can kill you again. And then, so what happens is the consequences goes out the door. The consequences aren't even part of the equation anymore, you know?
So it's There's still work to be done on that, but we know they're working on it. It is confirmed, guys. There will be a better management of the inventory system at some point. The other area where problems are starting to pop up is security. The PvP versus PvE debate is as fervent as ever. Every time a new update drops, a new sandbox location is added, players go to these locations and they get guns down, being left to feel unsafe to visit these new shiny spots that CIG is adding to the game. Nothing is safe and we need PvE star systems. Players will always find a way to hurt other players. And this is true. Players do always find another way. We're really bad people sometimes. But there are still some deterrents to bad actors that we need to actually see in practice before I think they should make any really big calls. For one, security is really important. It just doesn't exist. I mean, there's supposed to be people who come to your aid when you get attacked. People who are wanted in a system like Stanton are supposed to be constantly tracked by security. And while some of the reputation stuff they've said recently has left me a little confused, you're also supposed to be denied entry to important places when you have a crime stat. One of the things they confirmed last year with that was jump points. You can't get out of a star system. None of these things even work I mean, player bounties haven't worked for almost half the year. And the lack of it is becoming a huge problem. Not really because it ruins the game right now. Yes, that's frustrating, and they are selling it as a live service, so they should be protecting the players who jump in for it. But mostly because it's ruining the perception of what this game is supposed to be. For example, look at how they handled item recovery. Now, a lot of people aren't happy with what they've said about it, but they have said something about it. And they laid it out because they knew that people were going to be confused about what's going on right now, so they needed to show us how that path led to where they wanted to be. They haven't really done that with security. I mean, they've kind of tried to, but it wasn't successful. And it's allowing the idea of the game to shift towards one that favors PvP in the long run, rather than just allowing for it, because that's the game we're playing. Star Citizen is a game that is designed to allow for PvP in places that...
I get so tired of this. It gets so tiring, this conversation, you know? The balance should be there through game design, and it's just not at that point yet. I keep saying this over and over again when it comes to PvE and PvP, and this argument between PvE and PvP that seems to be this internal type of argument. One, we're in an MMO environment. Two, it's a game where Chris wants it to be dangerous. Three, security systems aren't even in place yet or designed, and they should be. There should be some better AI representation or NPC reaction that needs to be in the game that protects those that are PvEers from people that PvP, and it's just not in the game yet. So we're not going to be able to safeguard every PvEer out there until these actual game mechanics exist. They need to work on it. They absolutely should in Stanton. And Pyro needs to be a lawless, chaotic, beautiful mess. And Stanton should be very they're creating it. It doesn't seem like they're doing a lot of work on security, but just the fact that they've got two systems now versus one system is a step in the right direction with security, right? You got a lawful system, this Stanton. You got a lawless system that is Pyro. There you go. Just having two systems right now where you can say, okay, well, if I want a PvP, or if I want a PvE, maybe go to Stanton. If I want a PvP, go to Pyro. So just having the choice of having two systems where one's lawful and the other's lawless, I mean, that to me is a step in the right direction in terms of game design for security. Now, it seems kind of like they haven't done a lot, but in essence, that's a step. That's a step in the right direction. The next step needs to be much better reaction from NPC and AI all across the board. And again, then we got to tie it into what? Server tech. We got to tie it into latency. A lot of the issues with the NPC and their animations and their movements have to do directly with the server tech. And then we get into another whole big ball of wax.
Might logically allow for it, but you're not supposed to be able to freely go around murdering people and spawn killing folks like they kicked your dog. Space John Wick, Star Wick. Central star systems are going to be pretty safe. Even the bases in those star systems.
As much as I don't like that, and there are griefers out there, and a part of me agrees with Space Tomato on this, there's no reason why people who play that way can't exist. The problem is there needs to be severe consequences. Crime stats, bounties, effective systems, mechanics in the game that help deal with these psychotic lunatics that are in the game that make them not want to do psychotic lunatic things. And again, that's not designed in the game yet. But like, you shouldn't just like stop that. You know, like pad ramming, all this bullshit where people were absolutely griefing, and then they're fucking with the cargo containers that I laughed at last night in general chat where I was seeing everybody bitching about, including Wookie, who's here. And the thing is yeah, that shit's gonna be erased. They're gonna find a way to figure out how to balance that type of shit. And you know, there's an exploit there. People found the exploit. That's what people do. That's why the game is where it's at. People are finding ways to break the rules. That's part of building a game. And then you got to figure out what you want to stay and which things you don't want to stay. And that's really the great debate. That's been the debate for over a decade now.
Systems are going to be indestructible. Starting locations confirmed by Aaron Roberts pretty recently are going to be very, very safe for players. And there are going to be instanced locations for gameplay as well, both in cities and out in space. Like, they are very, very aware that there has to be some level of basically guaranteed safety for people.
Where players want to be able to find the PvP versus where players don't want to find it. You know, they want to focus more on PvE. What system should I be in? What system, you know, do I want to go to? And
if I'm in Terra, I probably should feel pretty safe. If I'm in Pyro, I should be looking over my shoulder.
The Papster.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll never be able to 100% guarantee,
Pappy was awesome.
Hey, you're 100% safe. And frankly, we don't want to do that. I would put it more on the scale of, let's say, 90 to 10. Or, you know, and maybe in a lawless area, it's you know, the complete opposite. It's 10 to 90 kind of thing. We never want it to be a 0. We never want it to be 100%.
But players will always find a way. It's true. There will be edge cases here. There's no doubt about it. But I think we see how this strategy could work. I mean, we haven't even talked about the entirety of the PvE version that is Arena Commander outside of Star Citizen. But honestly, that stuff kind of gets lost in the noise in this sort of conversation when CIG is selling a live service game to people who are looking for an experience that this game is woefully underfeatured to deliver. I mean, we're still working on getting our radar working. Honestly, this is the greatest weakness of the 2025 strategy. It's been working for them, pumping in content, getting people excited, the funding's blowing up, and honestly, a lot more players are joining at free flies at least. Yep. So to some level, this year's been a success so far, but this is kind of just creeping its way in. The game may be becoming more playable, but it's still not really becoming more approachable. Folks want to have a good time when they're jumping into games like these, especially right now when there's a lot of cool space games coming out. Jump Ship, check it out.
Jump Ship's just a run and gun. I mean, Jump Ship's looks cool, but it's a high adrenaline, fast-paced, Doom kind of vibe, run and gun co-op. It's not a Star Citizen. Okay, there's no analogy needs to be had between that and between Jump Ship and Star Citizen. There is no similarities really, other than it's sci-fi. Dune's great. Open open kind of MMO world. Scale is nowhere near what Star Citizen is going to be. Freedom of options and choices and scale and free will in Star Citizen will be huge. When base building happens, it's going to be awesome. When the economy wakes up, it's going to be awesome. Right now, I find Star Citizen to be very approachable, especially with all the new content, right? With Hathor, with Stormbreaker, these types of raids that they're bringing into the game, bringing new people to this title, it's very approachable. You could get lost in Star Citizen very easily. You could play hours upon hours doing things that are currently in the game that are relatively fun loops, like salvaging. Salvaging, I'm having a great time with. I just tried rock mining. It's a bit broken, but going down on planets and moons and mining, rock mining, was rather relaxing and fun. And I got to look around at the environments, and I thought to myself, wow, I've never really seen moons like this, like all the moons like this on a scale like this in a long time, you know? So I think the rock mining rewards definitely need to be higher than, say, grinding out a mission for ERTs. And I think the industrial economic stuff that you do on the ground, whether you're salvaging or mining, rock mining, these things need to pay out a hell of a lot more money, because people are taking their time out to do these tasks and perform a very important feature that will be an important feature for the economy coming up. It sounds like really boring to talk about this stuff, but like the people that are doing a lot of the industrial type work should get huge rewards for the minables. or the salvaging or the RMC. The rewards need to be higher, at least now in the alpha testing phase, and let the players dictate what the value should be in the future. Really, as far as I'm concerned, because I know if the players dictated the value of what these gems are, or the refinables, or the RMC, they'd be a lot higher than they are right now. Right now, they're just data sets in a fucking Excel sheet, and you're getting paid at the TDDs for this stuff, or the admin offices. And they're just plugging in a number to give you based upon whatever they're putting on the block of their Excel spreadsheet. In the future, dude, if players came in and valued this stuff, it would be like 2 to 3 times more. They'd be getting paid more. So when people bitch about, player run economies, got to watch out, they're so manipulated and people are just going to go crazy with the prices and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there will, but there'll be people that come in with like more reasonable pricing. That's just capitalism. And if we had like a player market right now where players determine prices, I can tell you that all the industrial goods would be like 2 to 3 times more in value. So there's a very big argument to be had here in terms of like why I think that the economy in Star Citizen should be more player driven, more reward.
It's looking pretty good. And the more these little types of problems pop up in these constant content releases, the more people are kind of going to not return. So is CIG going to be updating these features to continue the good times? I don't really know. It's a weird year. It's been a subtle problem creeping in, and I think we're all kind of anticipating that this would happen, but CIG is a big company, and they're on a mission at this point. They know that this is gonna happen, I think, but they're hoping that they can outpace it by the additions that they're making. And this just might not change course until the end of the year at the earliest. But that's not all.
They've hit their stride with this. If they can make this a normal thing where patches are this big and do 1 or 2 of these a year, I think 2. I think if they could do 2 of these every year, I think that would be super helpful. And if they streamline this in the same manner that they stream their ship sale pipeline, I think this is just like bonus money that they're bringing in for this. So I think that this is something they'll continue to focus on with Elliot. I think this is going to be a little bit more common of a thing now that it's been so successful and proved twice now to work, quote unquote. I think it's going to be a normal thing that they'll eventually streamline into the process that will bring more money into the game. It's just additional revenue. It makes sense to me that they would. What they really need, the bread and butter, is the base building. The base building and the crafting, holy shit, when that lands, it's going to be so huge. People are going to be just hypnotized by it, especially, trust me, people that are into crafting and industrial work are going to play this game 24 hours a day. If it has some depth to it, right, and there's a market that they can play with, forget about it. It'll be a whole new game. People aren't even realizing what's around the corner. They have no clue. Let me tell you what's coming around the corner. Industrial players are going to get a game that's going to be more immersive, and they will finally get what it is that they're looking for in terms of crafting and the pricing that they're going to get. If there is an economy that matches the base building and the crafting, holy God. It's going to be a whole new game. And that's your backbone. That's your backbone.
We know that there is feature progression going on via the monthly reports every month, but we also know that engineering and radar and scanning FPS are going to be going to the EPTU soon for some more testing. So it does seem like they're getting somewhere with the features. It just, I don't know about these specific ones. And Yogi Klatt confirmed recently on Spectrum that both quantum travel and control surfaces aren't really close to getting it.
This is almost over. It's like another 3 minutes. I'll let it play out
in the game. And quantum travel is just one of those things that's starting to show the cracks. While AI is performing better since server meshing was added, we still haven't really heard anything about security specifically coming into the game either. Like I said, this is the sort of game that when you're in an area where you've gotten in trouble, you should be too busy dealing with security to care about the players that are flying around. But that's not even close to reality yet. We don't even get interdicted.
Space Tomato's right. That needs to happen.
Or scanned by security anymore in this game. They've got a ways to go. And there hasn't been much talk about it since then.
He's right.
There are plenty of references to how this security and safety system would work throughout the development though. Todd Pappy talked about it several years ago while talking to Jared. Richard Tyrer also talked about this last year at CitizenCon itself.
Lawful systems will be a mixture of high, medium, and low security areas. Each of these areas will be monitored by law enforcement agencies. And depending on the location, would dictate the emergency response time, with high-sec areas being the fastest.
But still, we wait. And until reputation can help us better define which players are kind of sketchy to be around, security is better functioning, and player bounties are actually reliably working, players are still going to have this sort of fight or flight mentality every time they see someone. We got to be able to scan someone and understand if they have any sort of baggage and if you can trust them. We also need the rating system we saw in the social app last year at CitizenCon. There are several different ways that we should be able to understand who we can and can't trust and make decisions before it comes down to that pull the trigger or run kind of moment. And honestly, I gotta say, being in an org helps with this, not because you have to come to weekly events and guaranteed gameplay. You don't have to do that for our org. GII is actually a pretty casual place if you want it to be.
Okay, well, listen, he's right. Security needs a lot of work. The reputation system needs a lot of work. Right now, as far as I'm concerned, the reputation system just gets you better missions. That's it. But reputation should actually be reactive in terms of, like, can you land at a certain base? Can you not land at a certain base station? Right? Like, it needs to be reactive with security measures, with security forces, with UEE. Like, the rep really needs to actually weave itself into something more than just, hey, if you grind missions for this, then you'll get better missions and better rewards. It's got to mean more than that. And it will get there. It will get there. But he's right. You know, I think they've hit their stride in terms of actually figuring out how to bring new content on the regular, and will continue to do as such with Elliot kind of in the lead on this. However, I wouldn't say that they're completely like forsaking all of the work being done on the back end with security. I think that's going to happen. I also think, like, when base building comes in, that's going to be huge, and people are just going to lose their minds over, like, owning your own base of operations. It's going to be ridiculous. So there we go. That's Space Tomato's take. I agree with some things. I don't agree with others, but overall, highly entertaining, cool dude. I like Space Tomato. Nice guy.